So I was looking through the Game of the Year candidates and not long ago, and I saw the typical Alex, the Baldur's Gate 3, the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the potentially Final Fantasy 16 all makes sense. But then out of nowhere, or maybe I just missed it, Super Mario Bros. Wonder comes out of friggin' nowhere, and now that is the talk of the town. And I have to admit, I am a Mario skeptic to begin with, but I want you, Alex, to shed some light on why this is potentially game of the year because I don't get it. You played the game. You agreed that it should be a contender. So
Mhm.
I have some questions. Do you mind helping me understand?
I don't mind at all, Adam. I'm here to educate you. That's what this whole venture is, Adam. Is I'm educating you on art and games, and now this time Mario. So yeah, hit me up. What do you need? How can I convince you? What misguided ways are you thinking about Mario that need to be corrected?
Okay. First and foremost, my biggest gripe with Nintendo in general is just that they have hounded the Zelda and Mario train forever. Mario came out in 1985 and they're still piggybacking off the same guy. I'm okay having a history and I appreciate what Mario has done for the history of video games. But dude, can you not come up with another intellectual property? But really, what I'm getting at, I guess, through all of this is how is Super Mario Bros. Wonder different than the 96 other friggin' Mario games that are on the market that they keep spouting out? What makes it unique that this is a Game of the Year candidate, that Mario Galaxy, and I mean, you know all the friggin' Mario games. I don't need to go through them all. What makes this special that it should be considered Game of the Year?
There's a couple things we got to touch on there, Adam. If you say it's just Zelda and Mario, don't forget about Pokemon. Don't forget about Star Fox. Don't
That's
forget about Donkey
Game
Kong.
Freak.
Don't
Star
forget about
Fox, there's a little
Pikmin.
bit.
Don't forget about Luigi's Mansion. Don't forget about that Squid Game where people shoot at each other and they're shooting squid ink at each other. That's Splatoon. Don't forget about Smash Brothers. Don't forget. See, I could just keep going. These are all new games that they're making. They might have some of the same characters, but these are all new games they're making. Whereas when you look at a game like Final Fantasy, guess what? This is Final Fantasy 16. They're still riding on chocobos. That's dumb.
Dude, but it's a brand new set of characters and a new story. And there's little things like chocobos that are
And there's a
still
new
relevant.
story and a new character in every Mario game. For example, here in Mario Wonder, the premise of the game is that Mario gets teleported to this other universe. They all get into this other universe, the Wonder Universe, where instead of people running around like toadstools, they're little flower people running around. And guess what? Bowser shows up and he absorbs the Wonder Seed, which is instead of stars, this universe has Wonder Seeds, and Bowser absorbs one, and he becomes one with the castle of the kingdom. And that's a whole new universe, whole new characters, open the door for all sorts of new stuff. But
It's
your
the
question,
same protagonist going against the same antagonist. Oh, instead of stars, you're picking up wonder seeds. It's same thing,
but
man.
that's the same with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is always a young male protagonist who's a reluctant hero who finds his true self and gains the power to overcome the ultimate evil, which always ends up being the same thing. You have the same summons. There's nothing special there. They just put a new coat of paint on the guy's face and they give him a different name like Jeff Thor. But it's the same game.
I don't agree. Also, the combat is different in the
Yeah.
games.
And the gameplay is different in the Mario games.
Okay. So the thing is, you're not convincing me how is this different that makes it a
Okay,
game of the
sorry,
year?
you're right.
You're not answering, which tells me
No,
it's
no, 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 no,
not.
no. No, 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 no. I got off track here. I'm just Final Fantasy to me is a similar offender if you're going to go with lazy IPs. In this sense, so you have to remember that Mario 64 and then a 2D Mario game are two different beasts, right? Mario 64 is a 3D platformer. That game design is totally different than it's more about exploration and it's more about the navigating these three-dimensional spaces and enjoying the vistas that you achieve, and less of that twitch action nice puzzle solving that you run into with some of these 2D Mario games. Now they haven't made a 2D Mario game since I think the Wii U. So it's been a hot minute since the new 2D Mario games came out. Last time they made one, it was kind of a bomb because you're kind of right on the right track. They had no new ideas. The big idea this time was you can get 1,000,000 coins, and nobody cared about it. So here they've come out with Mario Wonder. They intentionally said they delayed this because they wanted to make sure it was a new and fresh Mario game. But it's been a while since we had a good 2D Mario game. Now, I know you're asking, it's still just running and jumping. And I will admit, I was skeptical too. I was not interested in this game until I saw the reviews coming out, and everybody said, "Wow, this is amazing." And so I jumped on it and I bought it. And even as I started playing it, I was like, "Man, did I just fall for the trap? I'm just playing a 2D side-scrolling Mario again." But as you go through the game, you start to realize what makes these Mario games special. The first thing is a really subtle thing, is that playing through one of these 2D side-scrolling Mario games, it is a masterclass in game design. You do things. They do so many subtle things when you go through a level to navigate your attention, to navigate your character in areas that they want you to go, to make you behave the way they want you to behave so that you can get the best experience out of this game. It always blows my mind when, after jumping over, 10 pipes, I suddenly land on one pipe and I just decide, I feel like pressing down here, and then I can go down that one pipe. And it's like, how did they know I was going to press down there? What did they do along these lines to make me want to press down on this pipe? And it actually worked. It's amazing, but subtle things like that. And so whenever you play the game, you're learning and you get to experience the genius of the game design on that front. Now, that's putting aside the fact that in terms of the technicalities, it's some of the tightest game design, some of the tightest game engines you could ever imagine. Now, talking about a physics engine on a 2D side scroller seems kind of silly, but Mario always feels immaculate. That's one of the things that sets it apart. Contrast that to something like Sonic, which people liked in the 2D or in the Genesis era because Sonic was just the best thing they had on the Sega Genesis. But Sonic is a game about speed. Sonic runs so fast, but you play through that game and you go fast, and what do? You're constantly running into walls, and you're just running and jumping like you're Mario. Mario, you know when to run. They let you run free for a while so you can experience that. Sometimes they let you fly. Sometimes there's enemies you shoot with fireballs, and you never feel left out in the cold when you approach one of those situations. Is because the levels are always the right level of challenge, and they're never too frustrating. And they also tier the challenges for you, right? If you just want to get through it, that's one level of challenge. You want to get through it and collect all the hidden stars or hidden coins, you can do that. You want to get through it and do it in a certain time and get that thing, that's what you can do as well. So that's a nice little extra bonus to just 2D Mario games in general. I know I'm rambling.
I've heard enough. You've answered my question. In my opinion,
okay.
It's not different. It's the same thing. It's done well, but
okay. I didn't even get to
this. Okay, so it's the other. My other issue with this is it's hard for me, and some of these gripes I got from people who played the game and have comments about it. But it's hard for me when I'm reading the reviews to consider a 2D game that doesn't have bad level design by any means, but probably like above average. Not the greatest, it's above average, but not great level design. It's about 8 to 9 hours long to complete, and it's hard to compete, like for me to be like, that is better and should be celebrated more than like Baldur's Gate that has like incredible graphics pushing the limits of gaming. That's literally hundreds of hours of gameplay. And am I nuts? Like comparing them, it's just hard for me to be like, that is better than these others. Starfield, like Baldur's Gate, even Zelda. I don't get that.
So let's put the marketing buzzwords aside. Just because a game is 100 hours long doesn't make it good. Just because a good game is short doesn't make it bad. I don't care about playing 100 hours of Baldur's Gate because 50% of that is going to be grinding. It's going to be loot, looking for random loot. It's going to be stuff you really don't care about, but you're just interested enough to not stop playing the game at that point. That's what bothers me with talking about length.
That's your assumption.
Starfield,
I'm on the assumption that it is a good game.
No. So you brought up Starfield as another example of this. I've played Starfield, and the reason I don't enjoy Starfield is because it is exactly that. There are nice moments that are enjoyable and fun, but there's a lot of same old happening along. The combat doesn't change that much, if at all, throughout the game. The story is maybe okay in like a B-level movie where you go watching like, not bad, but it's nothing amazing. Particularly Starfield, the exploration is just boring. It's menu navigation. But when you look at something like Mario, because it has that tighter scope, it has 2D, they're not there to waste your time. And what's beautiful about a Mario game when done right, and this is one where it's done right, is that the levels aren't just level design in terms of like, oh, how tricky and cool is this? Like something like Super Meat Boy. The levels, the best way I've heard it described is every level is almost like you have to treat it like a present or a gift. And you going through that level the first time is you opening that gift for the first time and saying, hey, what is this going to do today? Where I'm going to go to a level and guess what? In this level, suddenly I'm a dolphin and I can swim through the ocean, swim through the water like a dolphin. And here's all these weird challenges and scenarios they're going to throw me into where I can explore that gameplay mechanic. Bam. Then you're out of there. You're on to the next level. Guess what? You're an elephant. And now I'm walking through. I'm an elephant. I'm big and I have the power to push things around. I can suck up water and throw it on things. And then you're out of there. Bam, moving on to the next thing. Next thing, I have a new power badge. Guess what? It turns me into a spring and now I'm bouncing constantly. How am I going to survive this level when I can't stop bouncing? Bam. All these new scenarios that you're running into. The game mixes things up all the time. And what's really nice is then once you get used to those mechanics, then they start intermingling them where they're working together, they're working cohesively. And then they drop levels on you where you have multiple different ways you can approach this. Maybe I could go through this level as a spring. I could go through this level as an elephant. All of them are viable, which is an amazing thing in games like this because you can play a game like Baldur's Gate and you can build your skill tree in such a way that you pigeonhole yourself into a bad situation where the game is insufferable to play. Similarly, Starfield. I mean, Skyrim has the reverse issue. In Skyrim, when you play through Skyrim, everybody starts out trying to be what they want to be. They always end up being a sneaky archer because that's the only way to really get through that game and do what you got to do to get through a game. And that's bad game design. Whereas Mario, you are encouraged to try different approaches, not because they need you to, but because it's just fun. And you're excited. You're excited about these new features. You're excited about these new elements that drop into the game on you. And you're excited to master them. And then when you do master them, you're excited to see how far that mastering can go. That's what makes a Mario game so good. And that's why whoever said it has above average but not great level design, I'd love to know what game they think has great level design. There's so many times I go into a level of Mario thinking, okay, this is going to be the one that maybe kind of sucks a little bit. And I get to the end, I was like, boy, howdy, that was a great, 5 to 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah, well, you had a better answer, I guess, for that. It's still to each their own. It's okay. Okay. My last question, if the protagonist was not Mario, if this was not a Mario game, it was a brand new character, something we've never seen before, do you really think it would get this much love and attention and be Game of the Year?
That's a tough question. I think that if you reskinned this game before it was released, as in right before this game came out, they took all the characters out and they put new looking characters in there, but it played the exact same way, definitely. And the way I know that is that Mario 2 was a successful game. That was an enjoyable game, and it was not a Mario game, but people still enjoy it. And they just happened to reskin it for America, but it was successful in Japan. That's why they thought it would do well in America. The beauty of Mario is people think it's just this Mario character, but what they're forgetting is that Mario is a very protected franchise in Nintendo. And when they release a core Mario game like 2D Mario, they're not going to half-ass it like the Sonic team might, or like these other platforming companies might. And what's troublesome is then that makes you think that, oh, this is just good because it's Mario, because you've never had a bad playing Mario game. There's never been a 2D Mario game that performs poorly. There's never been a 2D Mario game that wasn't tight as hell in terms of controls and physics and features and things working together. And so it's difficult for us to mentally, extricate the Mario IP from this masterful game engine, this masterful design. So if somebody were to come along and have a game that had this masterful design, this tightly engineered gameplay mechanic, these beautifully tested and balanced gameplay loops, but it was just somebody other than Mario, you bet your ass people would say it was good. And they'd probably even rate it higher because they'd have no expectations and leave with huge smiles on their face and say, guess what? Mario's got a new challenger for the throne. But instead, Nintendo's the only people that are actually able to pull this off for whatever reason. And that's why it gets so good. Another reason that I think this way is Astrobot is a good example of a game that's very close to being as good as Mario in terms of design and tightness. Astro's Playroom is fun to play because, one, it's kind of cute, of course, and it's a bit clever in the things that happen. but the gameplay is so tight. Those levels don't waste your time. They work really hard to make sure you're never having a bad time when you're going through those levels. It's always the exact pace you want. It's always the exact mechanics you want. They work the way you expect them to work, consistently, reliably, and they're fun to employ. So, and it's beloved. People love Astro's Playroom, Astrobot. It's not the IP, it's the design. And it just so happens to be that Mario never lets up on the design aspect when they're throwing that Mario IP on top of it.
So I don't agree. Plus, you already admitted that the Wii U Mario was a turd. You said it. So
It wasn't bad, it was just not new enough.
said it was bad. Anyhow, Alex, you made some good points. I'll give you that. Well thought out. Regardless of what I think, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is certainly going to be in the Game of the Year contenders. Will it win? Who freaking knows? Maybe. But all of you listening, watching, answer some of the questions I had in the chat. Do you think Alex is right? Do you think it will win Game of the Year? It might. Either way, we'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching.